Hello. The purpose of this presentation is to show a custom integration between version 5.5.5 of the Java EE cartridge and the end user cartridges. So once you have 5.5.5 installed, there'll be a custom integration package that we can provide that will let you do this type of integration. So what I'm going to do in this video is demonstrate the integration, and then in a subsequent video I'll demonstrate how we did this integration. So basically what you have is, if you're on the main screen of Java EE, you're able to go to the request and see all the individual requests that have run through Java. Now at this request level I can see all of the different completed invocations. So I'm looking at the last 4 hours, and I can see the number of physicianvisit.do posts that were completed over that 4-hour period. So there were 486. Now what we do with this integration is I'm able to click on that 486 and it'll send a request back to the Foglight Experience Viewer system to pick out each of these individual requests as they were captured. So basically this is the Java record, and now we'll look at all the corresponding individual end user records for those Java calls. So what I can see is each of the calls here individually, so there'll be that same number that we clicked on, and you'll be able to see which client IP was calling them. I'd be able to see the response times, and I can sort on any one of these response times. Now the main thing here would be to be looking for a specific characteristics of one of these transactions. Usually it's going to be response time. So here we can see that, again, physicianvisit.do is our search criteria. There was one of these that took 54 seconds. Now what I can do is I can click right on the user session, and that will take me in to the user session at that point in time. If I go to the replay, it would take me right to the page where that performance happened. Okay, so what I did is I quickly drilled down here and I isolated this page, and you can see what the user did exactly before that Java request that took 54 seconds, what they filled in. So sometimes this is really good if they're doing like a search and they put in some weird search criteria, and maybe that slowed the request down. So it's really nice to be able to see what the user did before, what the user did after. And then of course I can take this and I'd be able to zip this up and send it back to a developer so that they can reproduce the case that happened when it caused that poor performance on the Java system. Okay, so that would be use case 1. Actually drill in and get right to a specific user record by looking at a bunch of requests in a certain area of your Java. Okay, the next thing I can do is I can go a little bit deeper. Now instead of looking at a very large group of requests, I'm going to look at an individual trace. So as you know, in the Java cartridge we're able to collect traces based on some criteria. It can be alert, it could be just a general trace enablement. So in this case, for this specific request, we collected 10 different traces. What I can do is I can click on these 10 traces, and using the custom integration, what I've done here is I've attached a replay column to each one of the individual traces. Now what happens when I click on the replay, instead of querying all of the requests, this one request for physicianvisit.do, I want to find the end user that did this request. Now what I can do in order to do that, here's one for 10 seconds, is I can click on the replay button, and this will bring me right to that specific user session. So you can see here the query has the session ID of that user, it has the path, and it has the method. Now we had two very similar transactions during this time period, and it's pretty easy to look at it and see that this is the one we're probably concerned with because it was a 13 millisecond response time. So again, you can click on the session here and either go back into the hit inspector view and see the individual hits like we're seeing here, or I can go back into the content replay view, and again we'll be dropped right on that individual page, which is where we captured the trace. Now let's take a look at this page in a little bit more detail, because what we can see here is we can see our different times. So our end-to-end time was 13.56 seconds. Okay, and our client time was only 4 milliseconds. So now what I know on that end-to-end time is on the back end, on the web server, app server, and database server, the processing time was 13.47 milliseconds. So remember, 13.47. Now if I go back to the traces, it was 10.187. So this is the time that's spent in Java. So we can do a regular Java trace here and see where the 10 seconds was spent. But remember, 13.47 seconds in end user, 10 seconds in Java. So there is 4 seconds somewhere on the web server. Right? So with this, you're able to get those individual hops. And I could even break this down further now by doing a detailed drill in on this individual trace and see if it was database time or app server time. So you can get very specific now with this user integration, where you can get that HTML record as well as the back-end record, and you could do some really interesting correlation to do your isolation. So this is the end of the demo. Just a quick overview of the 2 integration points that we're talking about today. And just to recap those real quick, one integration point would be on the request type, where you click on completed and it drills you down. And the second integration would be on an individual trace. So these are 2 different methods that we'll talk about in the How Did We Do It video, where I can take you through how you can do this in the field. And it should take no longer than 1 hour to complete this custom integration. Thank you.